Hello again, thank you for joining me for today's video. So there is a big old fat full moon out there today. And so every time there's a full moon, I have this huge, so it's not just full moons, but really intense full moons. So the bigger ones, the more like potent ones. It used to happen with every full moon, doesn't so much anymore. But all of the things that still kind of suck, that I still have not resolved, come up, and then I have to look at them, and it feels like life is going to completely fall apart and disintegrate again. I'm like right back in trauma mode, feeling like, there's no escape. And it like gets like this really oppressive kind of feeling that is like the essence of purging. I might have accidentally started a pattern of like purging shit I didn't want to look at anymore during full moons, and now it's like I'd have to turn it off. Except for this stuff is still there. I really don't know how to resolve some of the issues. So many of the other things that I've had to resolve with shadow work, I have resolved by way of logic. So I pretended as if I had the ability, I did thought experiment. If I had the ability to rewrite the code that makes whatever situation happened make sense, what does that look like? What does the story look like that turns whatever shitty thing it was, whatever belief that's messing with me, whatever the emotional distrust and sense of incompleteness, whatever that is surrounding or connected to, how do I rewrite that? Not just for myself, but for everyone. So whenever I heal something in myself, I try to get it to be something that would also heal everyone. Because I kind of feel like if there's any potential whatsoever that reincarnation is a real thing, that isn't to say that you get to pick. I think we always assume, at least I have, whenever I've heard about it, that reincarnation would include some form of purposeful choice. I think we hear that. I think we hear that in the spiritual community, that there's a choice that comes with it. Your soul evolves, and as it comes back, to continue its lessons, the continuity exists with the soul. And I think you hear that in some of the ancient texts too. And what if that is not the case? What if it is a little more random than that? It would make more sense to me that it is not so purposefully chosen as people would like to believe. But I don't know. Why am I bringing that? What does that have to do with full moon purging? I'm not sure. That is the nature of the full moon purge, is that there is some shit on your mind and it wants to come out. It wants to come to the light. It wants to see. Oh, because we need to make things better for everybody. Because you don't know where you're going to come back. If you don't know where you're going to come back, then you'd work a little harder on making sure that everybody has more opportunity, equality, a good life, everything. We would be working for the goal rather than an individual one, even soul level. Rather, we would be working on making a more happy, blissful place across the board. So wherever you landed, it wouldn't suck. Yeah, there was a connection there. So like before this video, I did this whole long 30-minute video, which nobody probably would have even wanted to watch it. I still have it, but I did this whole long 30-minute video because the same issues keep coming up for me. I had just about every full moon for the last, I don't know, since 2016, 2017. And I would get really mad about money. I'd get mad about money. I'd get mad about I guess the life I chose, and that was chosen by way of my circumstances and the upbringing that I had. So the contrast between how I want life to be for me and even how it's been at certain times in my life versus everything since 2013, 2012. Everything has shifted so much since 2012, and I can't imagine how to make life more better, because the issues that are there remain. I have not been able to resolve certain issues. I have not been able to resolve the issue of by using logic or any of those tools to resolve poverty and other people's bias and how it influences us. So I know that we need to individuate. I know that we need to get a sense of mastery and self-actualization and input our will onto reality. But there are limits to it, and I can't quite see where all those limits are. Some of it is belief, but then to change the belief for me requires me to have an ethical position that replaces it. So I can't say, all right, anyone who is awakened has the free will ability to create abundance in their life, financial wealth, by virtue of their desire to do so. What about all the people who don't? And one of the hardest parts about awakening spiritually is if you've had trauma in your past. Getting past the imprint of trauma is incredibly difficult. So any kind of neurological patterning is difficult to override and rewrite, but especially the patterning that is attached to trauma, because that pain body reminds you that you are individual. It is a separation from others, which is kind of fused to the body mind, which forces you to come to different agreements with whom and what you are, and then in that is hard to come back and then get something for this self that you had to separate from in order to get a sense of healing. I don't know if you're following my thought here. So a way that you can use non-duality, non-localized consciousness to heal trauma is to understand that you are, one with all of creation, and experiencing this temporarily, not permanently. It isn't a reflection of your what society thinks of you, and your stance in society, especially in modern times, is not the truth of your existence in the whole of eternity. And there's some peace that can be found there. But in order to get stuff for this body, I have to be present in this body. And that's a hard thing to do from when as soon as I'm wanting something from this body, then I'm reminded of all of the things related to what this body has been through. And then understanding what this body has been through in concert with other people, and a larger sense of disconnect and not wanting to commune with the majority of people. And I realize that a lot of the reasons I don't want to commune with the majority of people are based on judgments due to trauma. But I also feel like, well, why don't they want to change? And so then you get stuck. I've been stuck, and this has come up again and again and again. Um, and it's just the nature of the beast, and it's the nature that not a lot of people want to think deeply about. Um, the frequencies, the vibrations that are very present in our reality, and how they got there and why they're there. What do they serve? And so it's like constantly feeling disconnected from my own um, stability. And the only place I can find stability internally is from a spiritual perspective. But as that spiritual person, I don't then, it doesn't grant me any standing in regular society. And so I'm just caught between the flux of feeling damned by society, feeling rejected, feeling angry and resentful that I feel like having a really difficult life and being somewhat on the outside looking in, being that INFJ type person, right? Allows you insight, but if you have no means of communicating that insight with others, it's almost like torture in a way. It is a degree of separation. So it's like exchanging the separation with God for the separation with everybody else. And so I resolved one problem and dissolved the separation from God, but then it remains every time that I see a reflection of somebody who doesn't love me. And by doesn't love me, I mean is invested in a way of life and systems that, call things that to me look like murderous intent, to other people look like suicide. So I think poverty is more of an act, a willful act that we are engaging in to some people's misfortune. And other people see this as their own choice that they have made independently. And if they made a different choice, it would be different. And my mind, on nearly every full moon, plays this tape of trying to comprehend what power does someone truly have over collective decisions that include and agreements that include this whole money system. How much willpower do you have to have? And so, like, how some people will talk about, agreements. Like, if you participate in politics, you're adding your energy to it, and you're giving a sense of validity to an invalid, thing. So, I mean, how do you separate out the economy from that, which is based on all of the same stuff? Like, I haven't figured out how to do that. I know a lot of spiritual people, or people who proclaim their spirituality, do so under the umbrella of, you create your reality, and so if you want to be wealthy, you just have to vibrate wealthy. What does wealthy look like? How else can we describe wealthy besides having more than others. Because I think the way that we have been describing these things is like, you know, and as if it is an independent act instead of agreements. So people do not get wealth by independently agreeing or like emitting a vibration of wealth. They get other people to agree to it. And that's where my ethical dilemma comes in. I really prefer to be authentic all the time. I really prefer to not have to package my being as something that is for sale. I would love for the opportunity to truly offer my insights from a life that has not been normal, that I don't hear other people talking about very often, to the benefit of humanity. But I don't know how to do that in the face of the inauthenticity that seems to coincide with marketing. So then it's like, I've been writing on my blog for like, I don't know, 8 years or something. I had the enormous, huge transition, 2012, 2013, everything that was life before then completely upended, landed me into a new kind of life where everything was now spiritual, mutable, unpredictable, influenced by forces that I didn't even know were real prior. And I don't know how to connect with people, honestly, from this place of newness. It seems like there's a way to blend this new perspective with the old structures that I just am not catching. I'm not getting it. I don't get it. And so it comes up over and over again. The the things that I was interested in and curious about as a child, and then what I went to college for. I was studio art minor and a psychology major, and I wanted to be an art therapist before everything crumbled. And it didn't just like crumble lightly, it crumbled like I had nothing. Everything I had was gone. And the majority of, like, I had a bunch of my mom's belongings at my house, and all of that was gone too. Like, it's like so much of what my life was and the trajectory. And like, so I had been doing art for school and preparing for a show for like 3 years. I had just a ton of art that all got, dumpstered, and all of the art supplies. And what I learned in the process, to me, was priceless. I was like pulled out of a belief system that would have caused me to harm others, for sure. For sure I would have done that, because I was just repeating what I had been learning and how I had been treated. Was not awakened to another way of doing things. And so I'm grateful that I see deeper into the realities of our human condition and our relationships with each other, but seeing deeper into them has not also granted me the ability to make it all better. And that is painful, because it's not better for me either. Because so much of my healing has come by way of, if I can find a solution that works for me, then it'll probably work for others. I kind of like to find the solutions that don't just work for me, but that do work for others, because a lot of our issues are similar, and they stem from similar seeds planted in the gardens of our little souls and insides. So I'm working on the ability to integrate these worlds that don't seem at all possible to integrate, and trying not to long for being done with this place. But I am really sick of being poor. I'm sick of the stifling, oppressive nature of lack of resources. I don't believe that it is my belief system, because that means that nobody else's belief system matters. And that, what the fuck is the point of that then? Then if I'm just an island to myself, and nobody else is real, nothing else is real, it's just complete solipsism. I don't believe that I would be partaking in this torturous state of things where I watch others suffer at the hands of people that, were they remotely aware of how their actions were connected or impacting, would never do it. Anyways, I feel like I'm rambling, and I want to be done rambling. I don't want to talk anymore. It was full moon stuff that comes up every time around poverty and the continuing dissonance with the inner reality and the external world. And an inability to find the ethical solution. If I take enough for myself, am I agreeing to a system that allows people to be thwarted in the way that they are? And how do I change the system if I don't want to agree to it? So